It's actually kind of funny. Have you ever noticed that the exact moment you decide to really step up your spiritual game or just dedicate yourself to being a better person, your life suddenly seems to invite a whole lot more chaos and hardship? It's almost like the universe is actively pushing back against your good intentions. Well, today we are diving into a really profound Eastern spiritual concept that explains exactly why this happens. In this explainer, we're unpacking the idea of heaven's tests and how surviving these very specific trials is the absolute key to forging an unwavering Dharma heart.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the purpose of tests. Second, worldly versus spiritual tests. Third, the forging of wisdom. Fourth, developing the unwavering Dharma heart. Fifth, 5 rules to avoid spiritual pitfalls. And finally, passing the ultimate test.
So let's set the scene a bit. The journey of Eastern spiritual cultivation is very often depicted as navigating through these profound, thick mists and steep, daunting cliffs. According to the source material, the spiritual path is naturally fraught with obstacles. It's absolutely not a paved highway, it's a really rugged climb. And understanding that these mists of uncertainty are a built-in feature of the journey, and definitely not a glitch, is the very first step to actually mastering them.
All right, diving right into Section 1, the purpose of tests.
The text introduces this really crucial concept known as Tin Kao Ren Yan, which translates to heaven's tests. These are hardships ordained by heaven, but they show up through perfectly ordinary, everyday human situations and conflicts. Now, what's truly fascinating here is the massive paradigm shift this demands from us. You see, we usually view hardship as a punishment, right? Like it's a sign we messed up somewhere. But the text insists, no, these are actually tools of elevation, designed strictly to refine and upgrade our spiritual resolve.
There's this absolutely beautiful metaphor in the text that perfectly anchors this core philosophy. Jade without carving has no value. Gold without melting has no price. Just think about that. You might have the purest intentions in the world, literally the finest raw material of a soul, but without the carving knife of hardship or the melting furnace of adversity, your true spiritual value can never really emerge. It just stays locked away.
So why do we actually have to go through all this? Well, the text lays out a few key reasons. First, tests forge and enhance your inner wisdom. Second, they stimulate hidden spiritual potential, stuff you probably didn't even realize you had in you. Third, they prove your courage and true resolve, because, let's be honest, staying zen is pretty easy when life is easy, right? And fourth, they act as this ultimate sorting mechanism to determine your spiritual ascent or descent. The text basically says that in times of ease, true merit is totally hidden. You really need the crashing waves to prove the skill of the captain.
Moving right along to Section 2, worldly versus spiritual tests.
Our sources break these trials down into 2 main battlegrounds. On one side, we have worldly tests. These are the things that hit our mundane lives: severe illnesses, natural disasters, painful family strife or divorce, and devastating career losses. These essentially test our attachment to the physical world. But then, on the flip side, we have spiritual tests. These hit you directly on your path. We're talking about encountering fake masters, navigating toxic gossip within your own community, unfair competition over merit, or just lacking the strict discipline you need. Both of these categories act like a furnace, but they are burning away completely different types of impurities.
Which brings us to Section 3, the forging of wisdom.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text argues that these tests are exactly what clears away the illusions of the ordinary mind. Now, what is the ordinary mind? It's that part of us that just expects life to be endlessly comfortable. It clings desperately to physical attachments and is absolutely terrified of loss. Without the friction of these intense tests, our minds just remain trapped in those mundane illusions. But the shock of a sudden trial? That shatters the illusion entirely, forcing the mind to step up and seek a much higher, more permanent truth.
Let's move to Section 4, the unwavering Dharma heart.
Surviving all of this requires a mandatory, massive shift from a victim mentality straight into the empowering Dharma heart. Look at it this way. When hardship hits, the ordinary mind reacts with blame, complaint, and anger. And the text warns that this reaction simply accumulates more karmic debt and keeps you totally stuck. But the Dharma heart, it reacts with gratitude and sincere repentance. It views the trial as a crucial, golden opportunity to clear old debts. This profound shift in how you frame adversity is the non-negotiable key to genuine spiritual release and immense growth. Grinding through suffering cleanses the suffering. This right here is one of the most powerful insights in the entire text. It advises maintaining a state where you view both gain and loss as completely 100% natural occurrences. When you stop actively fighting your suffering with anger, and instead just grind through it with a steady Dharma heart, the suffering itself is cleansed. It literally transforms into pure spiritual merit.
All right, let's look at Section 5. 5 rules to avoid demons.
So how do we practically protect this Dharma heart? Well, the text gives us a very clear procedural shield to avoid spiritual derailment. 5 major don'ts. First, do not waver. Stick firmly to true principles instead of looking for cheap magical shortcuts. Second, do not blindly follow others. You have to cultivate your own inner wisdom. Third, aggressively protect your inputs. Do not look at or listen to fakes. Fourth, keep your own heart clean. Strictly avoid criticizing or gossiping about others. And fifth, do not cling to superficial forms. Focus deeply on the actual, true essence of the practice.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 6, Passing the Ultimate Test.
Based on everything we've uncovered in this explainer, we really have to ask ourselves, when you are hit with a sudden, devastating career loss, or slander from someone you thought was a friend, or a really severe illness, how do we actually successfully take that modern hardship and flip it into spiritual success?
The promise from the source material here is so profound. It tells us that the furnace of the modern era is absolutely survivable, but only if you refuse to quit. As the text explicitly states, heaven will never cut off your path. It is only your own mind, when you surrender to the fear and despair of that ordinary mind, that actually cuts off the path. The mists around you might be incredibly thick, but trust me, the mountain is always there waiting to be climbed.
So, the ultimate takeaway here is a pretty profound challenge. You have to maintain the Dharma heart until your final breath. True spiritual resilience isn't just about passing one random test on a Tuesday. It's an unwavering, lifelong commitment to view literally every obstacle as a stepping stone. So the next time those mists inevitably roll into your life, ask yourself, are you going to allow the fire to burn you down, or will you let it forge your unwavering heart?